Okay, so this video is for me to explain, because I think I look better without my glasses in videos. This video is here me explaining Mercury's seventh aspect, Mercury's one and only aspect that it gives off. So, very quickly, let's explain what is Mercury and what is it a significator and karka of again. Well, Mercury, first of all, rules the signs of Gemini and Virgo. And Gemini originally rules the third house, and Virgo originally rules the sixth house. Gemini and the third house represents written communication, social media. It represents skills with hands, and it represents the nervous system. And messages travel very quickly throughout the nervous system. So, Mercury represents intelligence and just being quick-minded and witty. So you can see that coming from the third house in Gemini. Now, you look at the sixth house in Virgo. The sixth house represents diseases and debts and everything that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. The issues and problems you have to deal with as an adult, as a human being. The problems that you can't avoid, the problems that you can't escape. And if I didn't say it already, the sixth house represents small pets and animals, and the sixth house in just Virgo is associated with the intestines. So think about this. And I know I mentioned all this stuff when I talked about Mercury through houses in my series that I made, Mercury through the houses. But like I said, Gemini is the nervous system and Virgo is the intestines. The nervous system sends messages out very quickly. And the intestines, think about it, they don't move as quickly as the nervous system. They take their time and process and they break things down. They extract the nutrients and the good vitamins and stuff and they keep it in the body, and then it excretes the waste. It excretes the garbage that we do not need. So what Mercury does with the sixth house, with sixth house is about and Virgo is about, and why Mercury rules and associated with the sixth house is that Mercury uses his intelligence to deal with the everyday issues and problems that we face on a day-to-day basis. And since Mercury is associated with the nervous system and the sixth house is diseases, you can see naturally Mercurial people, maybe more specifically a Virgo, they can have the nervous breakdowns. They are always real anxious. It's because that naturally they are associated with, the sixth house, which is dealing with everyday issues and problems. So they can naturally have that anxious energy, that anxiety to accomplish this and fix that and take care of this, and they're just very anxious and very fast paced. And Mercury stays in a sign between 2 to 4 weeks. It varies between 2 to 4 weeks from what I've looked up. So Mercury is the fastest moving planet. And it's the second fastest moving astrological body. Because Moon isn't a planet. Moon changes signs about every 2 days. And Mercury comes in second place. It changes signs, like I said, between 2 to 4 weeks. But since Moon isn't a planet, you could say that Mercury is the fastest moving planet if you want. But you get the point. Mercury is fast. And then mythologically, in Vedic astrology, Mercury is the child, the offspring of Moon. So it makes sense. And if you go in Google and look up some images of Mercury, it will actually look very similar to the Moon. You probably won't be able to tell the difference in some of the images. They look very similar in real life. So that's also something that's very funny. It's like the mythological stories and lores are coming to life. And Mercury, much like its father Moon, mythologically, it's how it behaves in a house very much so determines the sign that is very much determined by the sign that is in. The sun and the nakshatra, because Mercury is sort of very chameleon-like, just like the moon. You know, you can give a general analysis of Mercury and moon, and it'd be very vague, and it might not really apply to you. But once we know the sign that it's in, it's like, this is exactly what you're doing. This is exactly how you think. This is exactly how you resolve issues in this part in the area of your life. So I was supposed to tell you the significations of Mercury, and I started talking, but I still am talking about it, but let me get to what I really wanted to say about the significations of Mercury. So, like I said, Mercury is associated with communication, siblings, I believe, younger siblings, since it originally rules the third house of younger siblings, travel, more so short travel, because like I said, Mercury is always moving. It's the fastest moving planet, and the second fastest moving astrological body right after the moon. So Mercury is associated with travel, but more so specifically short travel. You know why it makes sense that it's associated with short travel, short distances, is because, as we know, everything in the solar system, all the planets, they revolve around the sun, right? Well, Mercury will never be no more than one sign away from the sun. So therefore, it's no more than like a short trip, a short distance away from the sun. So that's another reason why Mercury is associated with short travels, short distances. And that's why the third house can also be associated with short travels, short distances. But yeah, Mercury is essentially your practical, logical intelligence to resolve problems and issues. It's your cognitive ability, your ability to understand and comprehend something and resolve it. You know, the moon is how you feel and how you think and how you react. But the moment that you start using your brain to resolve an issue, to resolve a problem, to figure out how something works, what is the best way to tackle a situation, a problem, a sixth house matter, that's when your Mercury is coming alive. And another thing, the sixth house and the sixth lord is also associated with Prarabdha Karma, which is something that I learned from KRS astrology. But Prarabdha Karma, because you see in Hinduism, there's different types of karmas, several different types of karmas. Don't quote me on the exact number, but I believe it's like 4 or 5 types of karmas in this life that is described. And one of them is Prarabdha Karma. And that is essentially unstoppable things and actions that we will face and deal with in this lifetime. The sixth house represents the sixth house and the sixth lord, whatever it is in your chart. It represents and shows the issues and problems that you have to deal with in this lifetime. Whatever planet is in the sixth house, whatever the sixth lord is aspecting, that will be an area of focus and problems that you will have to deal with in this lifetime. Life is pain, which is why, you know, some people who are probably, you know, don't understand God or are mad at God and don't believe Him. They be like, how could God be real? I go to church every Sunday, or I do whatever rituals and worship that I do, but people around me still die. I still face problems and obstacles. There can't be no existence of a higher power. Well, the thing is, you're under the illusion that some higher power, just because you worship them, is supposed to remove every problem and obstacle out your life. No matter how much of a silver spoon you might have been born with in your life, the very fact that you are born shows that essentially you have some sins to pay. You have some karma to pay. You know, you have to suffer and go and redo something based upon maybe something you did in a past life. If you're born, then you have some issues in karma and actions to fulfill in this lifetime. You know, that's how I view it from a Eastern philosophical, astrological, and maybe universal perspective. But that's enough because now I'm getting super philosophical and not talking about Mercury. So I'm gonna go do some examples of Mercury through houses and showing how a seventh aspect is influencing how it works. Because like I told y'all before in my several previous aspect videos, the seventh aspect of any planet is essentially the planet taking the significations of the house and sign is in, and it's like sharing it with the other house. So let's say you have Mercury in the seventh house, because this is easy. Let's say you have Mercury in the seventh house. What is the seventh house? It's business, because it's 10 places from the 10th house, and it's marriage and relationships. So remember, Mercury is, this is your chart. So Mercury still is your intelligence, but it shows us that with Mercury being in the seventh house, your intelligence, the way that you solve and fix issues, your communication will be greatly influenced by your partner, by the people that you date. These are the people who could date someone and then they quickly start to, behave like their partner. Quickly begin to start to talk like their partner, because their partner is influencing your intelligence, And with Mercury's seventh aspect going into your first house, it just puts a stamp. It shows that the seventh aspect, the partner will be bringing their communication, the way that they think, their logic, and they're going to be throwing it at you, which is the first house, your physical body and your brain. They are going to be impacting you mentally and physically with their communication, with their problem-solving capabilities. So people like this, they'll always date or attract very communicative people in general. And the way that you talk and think and behave could be greatly influenced by the people that you date and attract, with Mercury's seventh aspect going into the first house, the ascendant. So let's do another one. Let's do Mercury in the sixth house, because this is also very easy. Mercury in the sixth house. Like I told you before, your intelligence is being used to solve problems. Like, okay, this person said he was going to pick me up around this time. So that means I need to take care of this, and get showered and dressed so I can be ready in time for them to pick me up. Or it shows that, okay, I just bought myself a new iPhone. I need to figure out how to fucking use this iPhone. Or I just got myself a Fire Stick. It's jailbroken. It's hacked. I need to figure out how to work this Fire Stick. Or I just got this new car. This new fancy car with all these buttons. How do I resolve this? Or, okay, I know that I got to go to work at this time. And usually around this time of day, there's a lot of traffic. So it would probably be best if I leave a little bit early. Or maybe I should just pay the toll and take this tunnel or go over this bridge so I can make sure that I get to work early. Or because I know I got to go to work at this time, I should make sure that I don't do this the night before so I can be up bright and early to make it to work. Okay, I got to take care of these bills. I got this amount of money left. I need to figure out how I'm going to manage my money so I can take care of these bills and still have enough money to do whatever I need to do by the time I get paid again. It's that logical problem-solving capability. It's like maybe using your intelligence to solve a math problem. It's okay, I got a math problem. It's giving me this algebraic equation, blah, 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 blah. What is the best way to solve this equation? That's what Mercury does when it's in the sixth house, right? So with his seventh aspect on the 12th house, what's the 12th house? It's foreign lands, long distance travel, places of isolation, places where you just may be cut off from the world. A hospital can be like this, with rehabilitation centers and stuff. Jails are like this. Deserts, forests are like this. Places of retreat, like being in like some cabin or whatever. 12th house represents some monastery, some spiritual ashram, where you're just away from the world in this spiritual, mystical, temple-like place. Maybe like going to the Grand Canyons or Sedona in Arizona could be like a 12th house foreign place that's also sort of spiritual and mystical at the same time. Or it could be you being in America, and the 12th house could be another country like Ukraine or Haiti, Africa, Russia. Um, with Mercury's seventh aspect, it could show you could want to go maybe work somewhere, or you want to bring your sixth house problem solving capabilities, and you want to deal and solve the issues of other people in a different area. Like you might want to go and donate money to Haiti, or donate money to Ukraine, or donate money to London or whatever, to help people who are in bad situations. Your nerves could get all riled up. Like, oh, we got to do something. We got to save these people. Or I got to save these people who are in this other country and land. So your problem solving capabilities could go to that. Or if there's anyone here who's watching and y'all look at Dragon Ball Super or familiar with Dragon Ball Z or whatever, you could be like the character Android 17, who became like some park ranger. You could become like a park ranger because the sixth house is associated with small pets and animals. So you could be someone who might want to be like a park ranger, or go work somewhere and deal with wildlife, and deal with the issues with there. Like I remember there was a show, or there's shows on like orangutans, like Orangutan Island or whatever, where there's these people who go and take orangutans or baby monkeys, and they nurture them and teach them how to survive and deal with the threats of the wildlife, and then they send them off. They release them. So you might want to do things like that potentially, or maybe with Mercury's seventh aspect, you could want to be like some fancy doctor, a doctor who would probably want to travel to, I don't know, some fancy doctor that might travel around the world or travel around the country and perform special type of surgeries and miracles on people. But regardless, with Mercury in the sixth house, it wants to take its ability to solve and resolve issues and everyday problems, but it might want to resolve the issues and problems of other people who are in a lesser unfortunate environment. Like you might want to be the person who works at a rehabilitation center and get people to stop doing drugs and smoking or drinking. Stuff like that. You get the gist of what I'm saying. It brings all those things and it just puts it into the 12th house. So what's another house that I could do to show you? So okay, Mercury in the second house. The second house is the family that you come from. It's your voice. It's your wealth, your personal wealth. And what else is it? That's essentially it. Your personal wealth, the family that you come from, the way that you speak. You have an elegant way of speaking with Mercury being in the second house. And your intelligence, your problem-solving capability goes to managing your wealth, managing your finances. Depending on what sign and all that stuff Mercury is in, you might have a very methodical way of handling your wealth and a way of speaking. You might be like someone who handles the wealth of the family. You just could be viewed as very responsible with handling finances. But like I said, that depends on signs and aspects. With Mercury's seventh aspect onto the eighth house of occult and sudden events and the in-laws and your partner's wealth and finances, it could show that maybe through marriage or whatever, you could be someone who would like to deal and manage the wealth of the people that you marry or in marriage-like relationships with. It shows that you would be curious about wanting to learn about the occult, or just be open to wanting to learn about the occult and mysticism and secrets and all that stuff. With Mercury in the third house, it naturally shows that you are just a very ultra communicative person. You're very communicative, and you might have natural skills and talents when it comes to working with your hands. And the third house is associated with social media and maybe local news broadcasting. So you might be someone who like to do what I'm doing right now, talk in front of the camera to a small audience. You might want to be like some local news anchor. You might want to have a blog or a podcast. You might want to do those things. You might write a lot of books. And then with the seventh aspect, you might be maybe curious about wanting to take what you broadcast or communicate onto a higher platform. you might want to maybe eventually move on from talking about maybe small local issues and maybe talk about maybe heavier topics of discussion, maybe more philosophical and intellectual and political and law like discussions, because the ninth house is associated with the teachings of a father, a guru, mastery of a subject, mastery of a education. It's like the ninth house is like you're done learning and now you're teaching, you're preaching. So, and because the ninth house is originally ruled by Jupiter, Jupiter represents, the Jupiter and ninth house, it represents laws and politics. Because essentially, a law is a bunch of people who come together and have the same feelings and belief on one thing, and then they enforcing it. That's just like a religion. A bunch of people congregate together, they believe in the same thing, and they make it to a religion. So what Mercury will want to do with its being in the third house, giving the seventh aspect to the ninth house, it'd be like, some way, somehow, I want to learn about God, or I want to learn about law and politics, or I want to learn about something I want to learn and communicate about a serious subject and mastery of something, a serious profession or whatever. Mercury, some way, somehow, we just want to learn something and communicate something that is of ninth house type of depth. So that communication, the stuff that they might write about, the things they might blog about, the things they might broadcast about, whatever, they might have a desire eventually to want to elevate it from something trashy, from talking about TMZ stuff, World Star stuff, reality show stuff, and really talk about something serious, serious, report on serious stuff, communicate on serious stuff. Or they might eventually, with Mercury being in the third house, you can see them wanting to write, and you can want to see them want to publish. Because the third house can just show you writing, books, and all that good stuff, but the ninth house can be associated with publishing. You sharing and enforcing what you have to teach and write. Or with Mercury being in the third house, we could see that you yourself, with the seventh aspect, you could seek out a teacher or guru or mentor to help you sharpen your third house skills. So, the third house can be associated with acting. Third and fifth house can be associated with acting, because 3 places from the third house is the fifth house of hobbies and dating and all that stuff. And the third house is skills with your hands. So actor, they got to be good at moving around, and they got to be good at speaking and acting. And Mercury is associated with mimicry. I told you Mercury is like the moon. It's very chameleon-like. It just blends in and camouflages. An actor, they got to read a script and become this character that the director has envisioned for the actor to be. So what you can see is that with someone with Mercury in the seventh house, with Mercury in the third house, giving the seventh aspect to the ninth, they could seek they could seek in or find some type of teacher, some mentor to help sharpen their broadcasting skills, their acting skills, their skills with their hands. They could go on a long distance travel or attract a teacher or mentor who might live several states away, who will be able to help them sharpen their third house skills. But yeah, Mercury in the third house, they can become curious about trying to do the ninth house things. Mercury is in the third house is still, Mercury isn't Jupiter. Mercury isn't no guru. Mercury is intelligence, but it's not necessarily a master at something. It's just playing around with something. It's just trying something out, but it hasn't mastered something. So Mercury might try to search for someone to teach him how to master it. And I'll do the reverse, and then I'll finish this. Mercury being in the ninth house, and you put Mercury in the ninth house, and we see that your intelligence goes towards wanting to understand the ninth house things. You want to read a bunch of religious texts, spiritual texts, law, whatever, and you might excel at maybe learning the law and being a politician or whatever, but you might fall short on maybe a spiritual sense when it comes to understanding God and religion and spiritual texts. Because what Mercury is quick intelligence, quick communication. It can learn, it can process things quickly, absorb and gather information quickly. So Mercury in the ninth house, unless it receives certain aspects and all that stuff, and you gotta look at Mercury through several divisional charts. Mercury in the ninth house could probably show someone who thinks that just because they memorized spiritual texts and they can repeat it, that they understand it, that they have found God, that they understand God. No, you're just a tape recorder. You just read a book and you memorized it and you repeated it, but you probably didn't think and ponder on the text. You probably didn't put that text into your own word, and even then, you just still probably just are missing the point. You're just probably still thinking that, hey, I read this book, I understood what they said. They said this, but you probably missed the metaphors. You probably missed the deeper essence of it, and you're just missing the point. You might be able to fool the masses. You might be able to fool the everyday people if you're in a church or if you're or whatever, but you'll be missing that Jupiterian quality. You'll be missing that spiritual correct guidance and quality that can really make you understand the word. Because people can read the word. People can read spiritual and religious texts, but who they are don't change. They can never provide you with no good advice and wisdom. And they can just keep repeating the text, but they don't really sit and ponder and understand the text. They just tape recorders. So Mercury in the ninth house could show someone who might try to be a guru. They might try to be a professor. They might try to be a teacher. And they probably could be a teacher, but their guidance might not be 100% on point. Like I said, they might succeed and do well in a political front or maybe other academical ventures. But maybe if you try to go into maybe like a religious or spiritual and philosophical direction with Mercury in the ninth house, then you'll probably fail or fall short or just won't be understanding and missing the point, unless maybe Mercury is in the sign of Pisces or Sagittarius or aspected by Jupiter or is conjunct Jupiter. Then it will be getting that right guidance of a teacher, of a guru, who can tell them that yes, these are the right things to say in regards to religious, spiritual things, and this is the right way to just go about them. But other than that, Mercury might struggle when it comes to understanding the divine, mystical knowledge and world. Their understanding of it might not be so great. But anyway, with Mercury's seventh aspect into the third house, you would want to maybe write about it. You'll probably want to write about and blog about and travel and become real communicative. You will want to spread the knowledge. You just be very communicative about the ninth house things. You'll be talking to your friends. You'll be talking on social media. You'll be traveling home or whatever, talking to your siblings and wanting to tell them about this ninth house knowledge that you have found or that you think you found. And you could want to share it to them. But that's essentially it. It's like with Mercury in the ninth house, like you went to college. And after you went to college, you came home and you're just telling your parents, you're telling your friends, or you're just telling people locally about all the things that you learned. You might not want to be the one preaching on a big screen or in front of the world, but you're like, I went to school, and you know what? Now that I went to school and I got this type of mastery, I'm going to just open up some local theater and just work within my small little area. But I don't want to get too long-winded, but you understand, with Mercury's seventh aspect, it's bringing the significations of Mercury in the house and sign that it's in, and it's going to share it and throw it at the other house across from it. I hope this gave you great quality understanding on what does Mercury do with its seventh aspect. Thank you, and see you on my next video.